Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And we're here for another this and that video today. So for those who are new, this is basically just a semi-weekly vlog that I do showing you some of the things I have going on, whether it be experiments or just things I got to get done today, and also directing you back to some videos I have on some of these various topics. So the first thing I'm going to talk about today is valerian leaf. And this is it's actually valerian leaf and flowers that I have in here that I dried up from my own plants. And though we commonly use the roots, if we're thinking of a medicinal herb, from the valerian, the leaves and the flowers are also pretty potent. Not as strong as your root. But anyway, this came to mind because I just recently shot a video, which you probably have already seen, which I will link down below in case you haven't, in the description box. And don't forget to hit that little arrow or the show more so that you can, so the description box will open up and you can see all the links in there. I did a video on some herbal remedy blends, medicinal herb blends to keep in our bug out bags, go bags, whatever you want to call them, purses and whatnot, so that we can always have them on hand whenever needed. And one of the herbs that I included in one of those blends was the valerian leaves and flowers. Now, while I have some valerian root that I stocked up on before I started growing my own, I have yet to dig up the roots of my plants because they're still very, very new. So valerian is something I highly recommend that you put in your medicinal herb garden because it's really good for, not a lot of people think it's just good for, you know, sedation, you know, and being able to help you to sleep, which it is excellent for, but it's also highly effective at helping to relax your muscles. Because a lot of times when I get really stressed out and tense, my shoulders is where I tend to pick up that tension, or my upper back. And in order to get those muscles to relax, every once in a great while, I'll take some of my valerian root tincture, and that just, it has really helped. Because when they get that, when it gets that bad, my shoulders will start to hurt and ache, and then the ache tends to go up into my head. But the valerian root is very effective at that. So it's also helpful with dealing with certain kinds of pain in that way as well. Now, valerian is very tricky to grow, or at least to get started, but once you have it established, it can be a pretty healthy plant, and it'll keep coming back because it is a perennial. But the trick is, and somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody clued me in on this, is when you take your seeds, you're not going to get a really high germination rate. At least I haven't. It can take several seeds to get a couple of good plants. But one of the things you want to try to do is take your seeds, so they're very small, take a fine grit sandpaper and just very carefully sand those seeds. It's going to be tricky because they're very tiny, but what that's going to do is help break that outer shell, basically, to make them germinate better. And when I did that, I finally was able to get some starts. I'd been trying for years, but when I finally tried that little method, that made the difference. This last year, and I thought it was going to work, as I kind of crushed them a little bit, and no, that didn't work. I didn't get any plants out of that after all, but the sanding did actually help. And so I managed to get 3 plants out of the several seeds that I planted, and they should be pretty well established. I know the one came back, I had 3 that came back this last year, and they did really good, especially the one on the south side of the house. It got over 8 feet, which was pretty impressive. But since I wasn't ready to dig up the roots because I want these plants to keep establishing themselves, I did look it up, did a little research, and found that the leaves and flowers are useful, and went ahead and harvested a lot of those, and then dried them up, and found that it does make a very great tea if you're needing to just relax and to help sleep, or to use as a muscle relaxer. So I don't even have to just use that as a tincture. I can use it as a tea, and found it to be very helpful. So I just wanted to bring that up and go over it again. Now, I do have a video on valerian that I will also link to if you want more information in the description box down below. Okay, so moving on, then one of the things I really need to get done either today or tomorrow is to make a batch of my infused oil that I use in my skin cream. So that will be getting done. Again, also I have a video on this specific blend that I use. But one of the things I wanted to add to this, I'm not going to add it to this particular blend, and I'll tell you why in a minute, but it's something you may want to consider when you're making a blend for yourself, and that is to add some sweet almond oil, making sure that it's 100% pure. And the reason for that is almond oil is really high in vitamin E, and vitamin E is incredibly good for our skin. Now, avocado oil does also have vitamin E in it as well, but the almond oil is higher. Now, the reason I'm not going to use this in my blend is because my blend is to go into the skin cream that I sell on my store, and I try to keep it as hypoallergenic as possible. And so a lot of people are allergic to almonds and other types of things like that. So I'm going to leave it out of that, but I would like to try to make a separate blend just for my own skin cream. And I think what I'm going to do is when I do the infusion, I'll just start like a smaller jar. I'm going to do that with a blend of the avocado and the almond oil. I do find the almond oil is a little bit thicker than the avocado oil, which is one of the reasons I do want to also do it as a blend. And the almond oil is a little bit more expensive. But if you're interested in this, I'll go ahead and link to the Now Foods almond oil down below. Put our affiliate link in there, and even if you don't want to buy that, you can at least go through that link and then look at some other almond oils that you may be interested in instead. And by the way, we still get credit for that as long as you go through that link. Whatever you buy, after going through that initial link, whatever you add to your shopping cart from that particular shopping session, we'll still get credited to it. So that's really helpful to us. But as I always say, if you can find the item cheaper at a local store, then I recommend you do that, because it's best you save money as well. We love it when people are willing to help us out in that way, but we also want to encourage you to keep being frugal and save money. Okay, another thing I want to talk about, and these I also get on Amazon. I think they're still available. A lot of times I'll say this, but then find out that the items are no longer available. But if they're not, I'll try to find something very similar and link to it. But anyway, these are raw organic nori sheets. These are what you would use to make sushi. And I like them as the sheets because there's a lot you can do with it. You can break it up into small pieces and add it to soups or whatever, and use it as a vegetable in that way. But the thing with nori, as with any other sea vegetable, is if you have thyroid issues, especially if your thyroid is low functioning, getting some sea vegetables into your diet is really important. And I do this from time to time, and sometimes I forget about it, but I just remembered it the other day. I'm like, I'm in the mood for having some seaweed. And so the nori sheets, the thing about nori that I like better than kelp is it has a much more mild flavor than kelp does. Kelp can be very strong, but nori is very mild, and yet you're still getting that good iodine and other great things that are in your sea vegetable by using this. And so what I like to do with it is I like to make some of my vegan cheese, which it is vegan, or dairy-free cheese, however you want to call it. But it's very simple. I have a video on how I do it, and I do that using pecans and cashews and a couple other ingredients that you can check out that video. And basically it's just a cream cheese, and I can make it any consistency I want. This last batch I made a little bit more smooth to make it very easy to spread. And so what I like to do is spread that on my nori sheet and then roll it up kind of like a burrito. And it's best if you let it sit for like a minute so the moisture in the cheese itself can kind of soften the nori. Or if you spread it all the way across, that's better. Yeah, I usually just spread it on one half and then roll it up. But then that will make it easier to bite into. But anyway, I find it to be a pretty tasty treat and a very, very healthy, because you're getting all the great proteins and things that are in the nuts, as well as all the wonderful nutrients that are in the sea vegetable itself. So just something I wanted to throw out there to you, because I just made myself some of the vegan cheese, and I've been having that for my lunch for the past couple days, and will again today. Okay, and another thing I wanted to talk about was a gift that someone sent me, and she doesn't want me to mention her name, and that's cool. I'm not going to do it. She made this doll. So basically it's getting one of those ugly kids dolls and then taking the makeup off and redoing the face, and she redid the hair. You know how sometimes I wear my hair twisted back like that? And she made, it's all hand done, a patchwork skirt and then an apron with a little pocket on it. Isn't that just adorable? And she even handcrafted the little boots that she has on. And so, and a shirt, of course, too. So this is me. And I just fell in love with it. I was so excited when I opened this up and I thought, how precious this is. What a neat idea. A little mini me. Yay. It's a good thing she doesn't talk as much as I do though. The other thing I want to get done real soon, hopefully today if time allows, is I'm going to make myself some peanut butter granola, which yes, I have a video of. It's our favorite granola to eat. It's, you know, out of all the different varieties I'll make from time to time. And I haven't actually made granola in so long, and I'm just like realized, I'm craving the peanut butter granola. And it's the reason the peanut butter one is the easiest is, you know, as you notice, I learned to store my jars upside down for the peanut butter, because when you get a natural peanut butter and the oils like to separate, this is the best way to store it to keep it easy mix. So anyway, it's just 3 ingredients. It's just honey, peanut butter, and oats. Very easy to do. But I don't know in that video that I have, that I will also link below. One thing to keep in mind is when you heat your 2 ingredients, because what you're trying to do by heating it is make it easy to blend and also pour over your oats. But one thing to keep in mind is that don't overheat it. You want to keep your honey as raw as possible. That's very important to get all the good nutrients and the great value of the raw honey. In fact, heating it or overheating it could actually make it detrimental to your body rather than healthy to your body. So just one of those things you got to keep in mind. I got to looking into that not too long back, and I was like, I knew that heating raw honey would destroy some of the nutrients, but what I didn't know back when I did the original video is that it would also actually make the honey somewhat harmful to the body. So really important fact to know that. Keep that honey as raw as you can. So heat it very low, very gently, just enough so you can mix the peanut butter and honey together easily enough, and then be able to pour it over your oats and you know, make it easy to blend. And then the other thing I need to do today for certain is I'm going to be making some tamale pie. Tamale pie is one of our favorite meals around here, and I feel like I don't make it enough. This is the reason why I like to do home canned, like to take some of my dried kidney beans. And so when I make a big batch of chili and I'm canning it up for an easy meal for those nights that we really need it, I fill up any empty spaces with some pre-soaked kidney beans, add in some water, and then I can those right along with the chili, so I can have my canner full, but then also have some kidney beans ready, or they're already cooked, already ready to go, to use in my tamale pie, so that when I get this great idea, I get up in the morning and go, oh, I know what I want to make today. I want to make tamale pie. And like, oh, darn, I can't, because I got to soak the kidney beans still for 24 hours. Well, this way, it's all, they're ready to go, so I can add those. And then the other thing I'm going to use, I was going to use some of the ground venison that we have from one of the deer that Patrick got over the past couple of years that we have in the freezer, but I changed my mind and decided I'm going to use some of the venison I canned up this year from his most recent. And I know that doesn't make sense because this is older, but I really want to try the canned venison in this particular recipe and see how it turns out. And then, of course, I also have some home canned salsa verde from our own tomatillos, and I have a recipe on that as well. If you would like to check it out, I will link to that down below. So all that, the beans, the meat, and the salsa that I've canned up myself, and plus I'll be using our own home-milled cornmeal for the cornbread that's going to go on top. And I use 2 different kinds of corn when I do the cornmeal, and one of them is our own homegrown glass gem popcorn that we've milled up, and we have a bunch more that we still need to mill up. Plus I have the white corn, whole corn, that I bought from Azure Standard, or Azure Standard, however it's pronounced. Another one of those words I always forget to pronounce correctly. And we just mill that up in our Country Living grain mill, and we have a few different videos on our Country Living grain mill if you'd like to check that out. I will go ahead and put down below the one on grinding corn, because it does take a special auger that you have to use in that, which we got when we got our Country Living grain mill from Amazon. It actually came with the corn and bean auger, and then the company eventually also sent us one specifically for making peanut butter, and we have a video on that as well. So I'll try to remember to get all those videos in the description box. Again, don't forget to hit show more, and also obviously to the recipe of how I make my tamale pie. So one of our favorite meals, very filling. I can make a big batch, and it is great as leftover, so you can eat on it for 2 or 3 nights if you don't get sick of it by the 3rd night. And if you do, if you're tired of it even after the first night, it's easy to freeze. It freezes up beautifully. You just put it in your little glass lock containers, and then, you know, you can divide it up by 1, 2, however many servings you want, and then just put it in your freezer. It's one of those things I used to make a lot when Patrick worked outside of the home, just so I could freeze it up in little single serving sizes, and then he would be able to have that for his lunches when he went to work. Oh yes, and one more thing I wanted to talk about. By the time you're seeing this video, it's actually been a few weeks, because I'm always 3 weeks ahead of my video, so that might confuse people when they're trying to figure out where we are time-wise. But we had recently just had yet another power outage, which is incredibly normal for where we live, because we have big trees and big winds this time of the year. So power outages are quite common. Sometimes we don't know if it's going to be for an hour, if it's going to be for a full day, or if it's going to be for a few days, which does happen. It's rather rare that it goes longer than a 24-hour period, but it does happen. However, we are ready to go, and life for us goes on pretty much without a hitch when that happens. And I did do, and some of you who follow us in such a way that you can see our community posts, I did do a Patreon post on that. Remember, Patreon is free. I know somebody came in and commented recently that said it's not free. Yes, it is. Just ignore that little thing off to the side. If you want to just get in there and view, you should still be able to see all of our posts without having to pay a single cent. There is automatically a 3-tier system set up, and we can put in there whatever we want, but that's just the way Patreon is. You have to kind of have that there, but that's only if you want to. There's no reason why you have to pay to see any of our posts, because we set them as public. We don't set them as for patrons only. All of our posts are set as public. But anyway, I made a post about our power outage. It's a rather brief read, just talking about some of the things that we do around here. Even though we're still on grid as far as power and water, we also have our off-grid backups, such as our solar power and our rainwater collection, and then, you know, treadle machines and different things that run without any power whatsoever. And so I talk about a little bit of that. And if you're interested in reading that, it's a pretty quick read. I'll go ahead and put that link down below, as well as the video that I did a while back on living partially off-grid, because some people think that we're off-grid. Well, we're not. We're both. we do the best of both worlds, but whenever there's a power outage, we can easily manage without it. It's just more, having the public power is more of a convenience than anything. So, you know, especially at this time of the year where we don't get a lot of solar power collection because of our lots of rain, lots and lots of cloudy days where there's nothing but rain and clouds for days and very, very little sun. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this video and that you got some new, fresh ideas here. And even if they're not new because you've been following us for a while, that just to remind you, maybe you need to make some more of that peanut butter granola. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.